Congressional Democrats called for the biggest overhaul of the country's policing laws in decades on Monday. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump is demanding tough law enforcement. Democrats have scheduled hearings beginning Wednesday in the House of Representatives and hope to pass what they're calling the Justice in Policing Act of 2020 by the end of this month. To become law, the bill would also have to be passed in the Republican-controlled Senate, where a hearing on policing is scheduled for next week. The Democrats are aiming to broaden police accountability, track problematic officers through what they call a National Police Misconduct Registry, and end the practice of transferring military equipment to police departments across the nation. Past congressional attempts at police reform and gun control legislation have failed, and the extent to which Republicans might join the effort to approve policing reforms is unclear. Congressman Kevin McCarthy, however, who is the leader of the minority House Republicans, says he believes the two parties can find common ground. On the other hand, Republicans often take their cue on legislation from President Trump. On Sunday, he said on Twitter, "I want great and well-paid law enforcement. I want law and order." Meanwhile, the city council in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where George Floyd died while in police custody, has announced it is planning to eliminate its municipal police force. The mayors in two of the most populous U.S. cities, New York and Los Angeles, say they will cut police funding in favor of more community programs in impoverished neighborhoods. The U.S. economy is in a recession, an economic research group declared on Monday. It marks the end of the longest economic expansion in history. The news out of the World Bank was grim on Monday, predicting the global economy will shrink 5.2% this year. This is VOA News. Thousands of mourners streamed through a church in the U.S. city of Houston, Texas today to view the casket of George Floyd, the African-American man whose death in police custody sparked renewed protest against police brutality in cities across the country and in other parts of the world. Texas Republican Governor Greg Abbott was among those who paid tribute. He told reporters outside the church that he will include Floyd's family in discussions about police reform. He said Floyd has not died in vain and vowed that Floyd's life will be a living legacy in the way that Texas and the entire country responds to his death. Floyd's funeral will take place on Tuesday. He'll be buried at the Houston Memorial Gardens Cemetery. Memorials were held last week in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he died, and Rayford, North Carolina, near where Floyd was born. Also Monday, Derek Chauvin, the white officer who was filmed pressing his knee against Floyd's neck for more than 8 minutes before Floyd's death, made his first court appearance since the charges against him were upgraded to second-degree murder. Chauvin said little during Monday's brief hearing at a Minneapolis court as he appeared on closed-circuit television from a maximum security prison. His next appearance is set for June 29th. Lockdowns across the globe prevented millions of deaths from the coronavirus, according to two new studies published on Monday. In a study by the Imperial College of London, some 3 million deaths were averted in 11 European countries because of lockdown measures, including the closings of non-essential businesses and schools. A separate study conducted in the United States and published alongside the British study on Monday found that some 530 million cases of COVID-19 were prevented or delayed by lockdown policies implemented in the worst-hit countries: China, South Korea, Italy, Iran, France, and the United States. The number of COVID-19 deaths worldwide is just over 403,000. The number of confirmed cases stands at more than 7 million. Those statistics are according to the Johns Hopkins University's Coronavirus Research Center. The United States remains the country with the highest number of deaths, followed by Britain, Brazil, and Italy. U.S. military officials say more than 60 Islamic State terrorists were captured by U.S.-backed forces in Syria as part of a major campaign that started on Friday. The goal of the operation is to hunt down remnants of the Islamic State terror group. Colonel Miles Kaggans, a spokesman for the U.S.-led coalition against the Islamic State, said in a tweet Monday that U.S.-backed Syrian Democratic Forces continue their operation against sleeper cells in eastern Syria. Nearly 6,000 U.S.-backed fighters are involved in the campaign. Via remote, I'm Marissa Melton.